In the last video, I looked at a ghost story suggested by Rob440. Another subscriber suggestion I thought I would jump on came from Ruth Herrera. She asked about parallel dimensions, so I went on the hunt and found some examples of those that have claimed to travel to or be from worlds and universes different to ours. Mysterious people who spontaneously travelled to parallel realities. Does science support the claims of these travellers? Let's take a look. Welcome to IF, videos on history, mystery and the strange. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video again. The idea of worlds existing just beyond our senses has long been held. The theory is used in film, TV and video games. Complete universes hidden by an unseen veil. In some media, these parallel worlds cross over. The comics and subsequent TV shows based on them have characters crossing between different worlds and universes, interacting with the different versions of themselves or changing the reality of a parallel world to suit their own agenda. But this is all fiction, right? Well, maybe not. There have been a number of people who say that they have done the very same. There has been many strange accounts over the years which suggest that travel to and from parallel worlds and dimensions is possible. These trips are sometimes said to be spontaneous, out of the control of those that jump realities. Other times they are more purposeful, a traveller carrying a message or a warning. October 20th, 1969. One such case comes from two men who claimed that they had shifted, albeit temporarily, into some parallel universe, an altered version of the past. The story begins with the two driving down Highway 167, making their way towards Lafayette. The drive was pretty mundane, not much to see and very few cars shared the highway. This was until the men approached a car that looked very old. As the men caught up to the old car, they noticed it was a vintage, turtleback vehicle and that it was in immaculate condition. Overtaking the old automobile, they noticed that the license plate read 1940. Now, an old car on the road may be a rare sight, but in itself does not indicate some strange time slip or dimensional travel. Many people collect and drive old cars, but other things about the car confused the men. The two noticed that the driver was a young woman wearing old-fashioned clothing. She was accompanied by a young child in the passenger seat, also dressed in old-fashioned clothes. The clothes they were wearing were also for cold weather. This was odd, as it had been a rather hot day and a warm week. The woman also appeared to be in a state of distress. She kept looking back and forth as if something urgent was going on, or in some sort of panic, almost as if they were being chased. This all seems odd, but not out of the realms of possibility. But the impossible was about to happen. The men nodded to the woman and shouted, "Do you need assistance?" The woman replied with a nod and pulled over. To make the event stranger, another car which had been on the road also pulled over, and the driver was surprised that the old car that had been in front of him the whole time was no longer there. According to this driver, he had seen the whole thing and watched as the old vintage car dematerialized into thin air. The police were called, but no answers were found. Could this car and its driver and passenger have been from another dimension? Another event that could be some kind of time slip happened in 1935. British Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard found himself aboard a biplane en route to inspect an old airfield near Edinburgh, Scotland. The plane hit some bad weather, but as they neared the airfield, they came through the cloud and rain. Looking down and expecting to see a rundown airstrip, instead the man saw an airfield in a newly built condition. Mechanics and other personnel were busily running around as if the airfield had never been closed. 4 new yellow planes of a model which Goddard failed to recognize sat on the tarmac. The uniforms and planes were out of place, but in a strange twist, after years of feeling confused about what he had seen, the Air Marshal returned to the Scottish Air Base. What he found shocked him. He discovered the very same planes and mechanics dressed in blue that he had seen back in 1935. Had he somehow managed to travel to another future version of our world, or maybe peeked into the future? Was it some sort of parallel alternate universe that was ahead of ours in time? We can only guess. It's at this point I have to mention probably the most famous case of parallel dimensional travel. Back in 2001, an internet posting might just have saved humanity. A man calling himself John Titor logged onto an obscure internet discussion board and posted this message. Greetings, I am a time traveller from the year 2036. I am on my way home after getting an IBM 5100 computer system from the year 1975. My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit manufactured by General Electric. The unit is powered by two top-spin dual positive singularities that produce a standard offset tipular sinusoid. I will be happy to post pictures of the unit. Titor posted images of his time machine and inspired many people to follow him. Then one day, as suddenly as he had appeared, he was gone, leaving his acolytes to pick over the remains of his story. Today, there are little shrines to his name all over the internet. No one knows John Titor's true identity, his true name, his appearance, or his location. All of it remains a mystery. If he was an actual traveller, as he claimed, that version of John Titor no longer exists on this timeline. Could this be an unwanted effect of interdimensional travel and meddling outside of his own timeline? Very little physical evidence of Titor's visit can be found. The images and messages he posted, but nothing else. Another case that did have physical evidence and is the claimed proof of parallel dimensions that many hunt for is the story of the mystery man from Taured. 1954, Haneda Airport, Japan. A routine European inbound plane dropped off its passengers. A neatly dressed middle-aged Caucasian man stepped up and told officials that this was just a normal business trip for him, one of 3 so far this year to Japan. Nothing strange so far. Speaking French, Japanese and other languages, and holding a wallet full of many different currencies, the man attempted to pass through immigration. He was stopped and quizzed by officials. This is when the man explained it was routine business trip and that he often flew to Japan from his home of Taured. The problem being, Taured is a place that doesn't exist. He then presented them with his passport issued by this non-existent country of Taured. It was full of visa stamps corroborating his previous business travels to Japan. The man was becoming angry and confused and gave the officers the number to the company he was there to do business with. They called, and as you have probably guessed, they had never heard of him or his company. The man was escorted to one side as the Japanese immigration officers tried to get to the bottom of the story. The man pointed to the location of his country on a map, the place he pointed to being Andorra. He told of Taured's long history and culture and accused the officers of trying to pull some kind of trick. Immigration could not let this man into the country until they had got to the bottom of this strange tale and his mystery passport. After all, passport fraud is a serious crime. They took the man to a hotel. The following morning, the mystery deepened. Taured's one and only known resident completely vanished from his hotel room, which had been guarded by immigration officials all night long. These mystery travellers, like the man from Taured, have appeared on many occasions. In 1851, a man was discovered wandering around the Frankfurt an der Oder in northeast Germany. The man claimed he was from a country called Laxeria on the continent of Sakria, both places no one had ever heard of. Another young man who spoke a completely unrecognizable language was caught stealing a loaf of bread in Paris in 1905. He said he was from a place called Lisboa. The police made the assumption he meant Lisbon or Lisboa in Portuguese. This despite of the fact the language he spoke was not Portuguese and that he did not recognize a map of Portugal as his homeland. We are left asking, did these men fall backward through time or pass into another dimension? Maybe science can help. It has been proposed many times before that the existence of these alternate versions of our reality and theories on the existence of other such dimensions is possible. Hugh Everett first popularized the idea of potentially an infinite number of different versions of our reality layered on top of each other. This would become known as the many worlds theory. This theory could perhaps show that at times it is possible to glimpse into these other realities, or at other times shift across into them, and people from them into ours. There has been much research on this strange idea, and there have occasionally been some rather intriguing clues as to the presence of such parallel dimensions. While for the moment only being hypothetical, there is a strong possibility that there are an infinite number of universes. In many worlds theory, there is the thought that every action that has the possibility of one outcome or another will actually produce both. Thus, each choice diverges into a new and alternate universe. MWI says that upon observation of an outcome to any event, divergent universes are born, a parallel dimension created at that moment in which our doppelgangers made their choice, these choices quickly multiplying into infinity. Infinite choices creating dimensions. Could at certain times a series of choices be made in the same pattern, and this is what causes these dimensional parallel world slips, both timelines coexisting in the same spot of space and time until a choice is made that would once again see them spin off into different dimensions. If this is the case, we are traveling into parallel universes all of the time, but we just don't recognize it. This, since it appears to be continuous from the previous moments we have just experienced. Maybe John Titor and the man from Torred and the two men driving on Highway 167 had somehow made choices that carried them into another parallel timeline. Or maybe we were crossed over to theirs. What do you think? Do parallel worlds exist? And can we travel to them? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, if you like what I do here on the channel, hit that red button, like and share. You can catch the latest by searching We Are If. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.